Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Mrs. Hamilton. We are on our second week of making our own yeast. So we have this Gilded Age recipe that I found in a newspaper at the Kansas Farmer. And I've made the yeast, and we are going to take some time, put it to work, and see what kind of genius the Gilded Age has in store for us. So, did she do it? Did she fall flat on her face? I guess we'll have to find out. If you'd like to support me as I continue on these adventures, please be sure to like this video and subscribe. And in the meantime, without much further ado, let's get to the video. It's been about 3 hours and it's only slightly risen. So I'm just gonna put a wrap on it and put it in the fridge and see if I can get it to rise overnight. This literally took like 3 days. But we're finally double size. So I am going to shape it, move it into my loaf pan. I wasn't planning on this going into the middle of my work week, but here we are, and the bread has finally risen, and I have it in the loaf pan, and it's doubled in size, so I'm going to go ahead and bake it, and let's see how it goes. So I wasn't really planning on filming today. I'm in the middle of my work week. It's been a bit of an arduous week for me. Well, a few months, but this last couple weeks have been really rough and I'm really tired. But bread waits for no woman. And when it said it was ready, I had to be ready. So I have my loaf here and I am going to cut it open. I mean, I guess I could wait till my weekend to cut it open, but then I would have to sit here and wonder how it turned out. So we're gonna do that now, and you're just gonna get the real Mrs. Hamilton. I'm feeling that it is probably going to be dense because I think I may have over kneaded it, and it's also bursting at the seams. So see if you can see that. There it is. It's bursting at the seams, so it didn't really have the space to grow, so I should have scored it to begin with. But it's a loaf of bread, and I made these from scratch, so I think it's a win. I'm gonna cut this open and we'll see what we have. It's not too bad. It is dense. I'll give it that, but not too bad. So I first want to point out that it is not green, which, since the yeast mixture was green, I was a little worried about it, but I was right that I didn't put in enough to make it green. I do have butter on half of it because who wants to eat bread without butter? I mean, I love bread either way, but butter takes it to that next level, you know? Alright, so at first I was going to say that it doesn't have a much different taste to it, but it's got a little bit of a different aftertaste. Now, considering I was adventurous enough to eat the yeast straight up, I am positive that the aftertaste is from the yeast, but it is really small, and had I not done that, then I wouldn't have realized that there was an aftertaste at all. Just would have recognized that it tasted a little bit different. Good with butter too. Okay, so it obviously took 3 days to rise, and I think that happened because the recipe that I was looking at did say to use a teacup full for 6 loaves, and I was like, oh, well, I'm only making 1 loaf, so I will just use 1/6 of that. And that can be really dangerous with baking. Anytime you double or half a recipe, it changes the chemistry of the recipe, and that can just cause crazy things to happen. So I think that if I would have just made 6 loaves, which I sure as hell am not gonna do it, so no regrets there, but if I would have made more loaves and gone a little bit more towards that amount that it was looking for, then I think it would have been a little bit more successful, and it would have risen faster than what it did, because 3 days for the rise was ridiculous. I also kind of regret, I was just trying to save time, and I kind of regret mixing it in the blender. I think it ended up over mixing it, and so I should have just done it by hand like a good little baker, but no. Anyway, so I think that's the reason why it's dense, and then obviously there's the rising issues. I did put the steam in it, and that probably helped it a little bit, but if I would have scored the top of it, it would have freed up the top to grow a little bit more. With that said, the biggest issues I see with the yeast itself is potentially just not using enough yeast, and also just with the kind of yeast it is, I probably should have just babied it more, you know? So just like with sourdough, it's yeast you pull together in your house, so I think I should have just babied it more, and maybe I might have been more successful. Something to try again. Although I will say it is a loaf of bread, and it did rise, and they may be small, but I can make freaking sandwiches with it, so I'm gonna call it a success. There is that other yeast recipe that I'm gonna put in the description, and if you do try it, let me know how it goes in the comments down below. And I think I am good for the night. It is almost my bedtime, and I am ready for the week to be over, but I still have 1 more day. So I got to get my beauty sleep. Thanks for joining me again. I hope to see you back real soon.